The moment people can clearly see your growth, their behavior toward you begins to change. Not loudly, not dramatically, just subtly enough that most people pretend not to notice. But if you think about it carefully, you've seen this happen before. There's a strange pattern that appears whenever someone starts improving their life. When someone earns more, when someone becomes more disciplined, when someone gains confidence. At first, people applaud it, they encourage it. They celebrate the early stages of your progress. But something shifts once your growth becomes visible, not potential. Not plans, visible, because visible growth changes the silent hierarchy inside relationships, and most people are far more sensitive to that shift than they admit. Think about the last time someone around you started doing better than before. Maybe they got healthier, maybe their career improved, maybe their mindset changed. Notice how some people reacted. Not openly, but in small ways. You've seen this before. Be honest, you probably already know someone this applies to. Here is the silent rule most people eventually discover. People are comfortable with your potential. They become uncomfortable with your visible progress. Potential feels safe. Potential keeps everyone on the same emotional level. When someone says, "I'm working on something big," people usually support it. But visible progress creates something different, comparison, and comparison activates a quiet psychological tension. Not because people are evil, but because your growth unintentionally asks a silent question: why aren't I doing the same? That question makes people uncomfortable, so instead of confronting the question, many people unconsciously respond by adjusting their behavior toward you. Sometimes they become distant, sometimes they become quietly critical. Sometimes they stop celebrating your progress the way they used to. Not because they hate you, but because your growth changes how they see themselves. And most people protect their self-image more than they celebrate someone else's progress. This is why growth can quietly rearrange your social environment. There's another layer most people misunderstand. Many people believe that if they succeed, everyone around them will simply feel happy for them. But emotional reality is more complicated. Success exposes differences, differences expose insecurities, and insecurities often transform into subtle distance. This is why some friendships feel different after one person evolves. This is why some people stop reaching out once your lifestyle changes. This is why certain conversations suddenly feel uncomfortable, not because your success harmed them, but because it disrupted the unspoken balance that once existed. In many relationships, there is an invisible agreement: we grow, but not too differently from each other. When one person breaks that pattern, the relationship quietly renegotiates itself. Sometimes it adapts, sometimes it fades. But here is the important shift in perspective. This rule is not something to resent, it is something to understand. Because the same psychological tension appears in almost every human environment: workplaces, friendships, families, social circles. Visible growth naturally rearranges dynamics, not because you did something wrong, but because human beings instinctively measure themselves against the people closest to them. The closer the relationship, the stronger the comparison effect. This is why strangers often celebrate your success more easily than people who watched you grow. Strangers see inspiration, familiar faces sometimes see contrast. Once you understand this rule, something important changes. You stop expecting universal celebration, you stop measuring support by enthusiasm, and you stop announcing every step of your progress. Not out of secrecy, but out of maturity, because real growth does not require constant witnesses. This is why disciplined people move quietly. They improve without constant explanations. They build without broadcasting every stage. They understand that visible results will eventually speak louder than announcements, and by the time results appear, many reactions will already reveal themselves. Without a single conversation, growth is not only about becoming better. It is also about discovering who is comfortable with the person you become. Some people will adjust, some people will quietly disappear, and some will only support the version of you that never changed. But that is the final silent rule. The more visible your progress becomes, the clearer people's true comfort with your growth will be. Remember this, because once you understand it, you stop chasing approval for your evolution. You simply continue evolving, quietly. Save this. You may understand it even more in a few years.